Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about what happens in traditional marriages or what has been happening in traditional marriages that also needs to shift a little bit according to the times in which we are functioning and living. So, when I was growing up, the kind of marriages I saw in my family and in my father's or even mother's friendship circle or extended family were related to very conservative marriages. And same was also true while I was living in Utah. I mostly observed the conservative marriages because, in the respect of marriages, the way in which I look at life, I do tend to lean more towards the conservative nature of marriages. But the way in which I am different is I'm not a woman who has all the qualities of a conservative woman inside of herself. And that's where, as a result of not being completely conventional like other women, I am more able to speak up about what is needing to be shifted in marriages that would make it more compatible for the next generation, for the current lives, for the current status of how we lead lives on earth. There is a earth basic paradigm that everyone needs to follow based on their inner core personality type. But if people are misaligned with their core personality type, that's when society starts fracturing and people have problems in their marriages because people have not understood their own selves at the deeper core level. And majority of us, because our society has been structured like this for many centuries, most of us hit puberty in the teen years, and after we have hit puberty we start thinking and reflecting on the opposite sex. But earlier, when a lot of death and destruction was there in the world from wars and famines and droughts and floods and all these natural calamities, people used to want to have the people, our DNA was in set up in such a way that people should have more kids and families should have more children, because some children might die due to war, disease, floods, calamities, unknown circumstances, right? As a result, in the past, thousands of years back, if a family had 5 kids, 10 kids, that was beneficial for the family to have that structure. And it was also kind of good to have that because humans are social beings. So we do need a group of people, a set of people to be happier in life. Most people are not structured to live in isolation and loneliness. As a result, having a group of friends, having a large group of family makes in general a healthier society. Hence, in the past, people used to travel in tribes, people used to move in groups and settle in different places in different groups. If you look at different religious settings also coming up in over time, when people were oppressed in Egypt, the Israelites were oppressed in Egypt. They moved, they from God's guidance, the guidance came to Moses. Moses moved some of the people with him, and they moved from Egypt, and slowly they were stuck in the desert for a few years and decades, and after that they finally reached the land of Israel. So in this 40-year journey, when they were stuck in the desert, they didn't know which is the promised land that God is talking about. They had to first go through the deserted lands, and they had to travel as a group in order for God to understand whether these people are worthy of taking care of each other, sharing lives with each other, sharing resources with each other when there is minimal resources around. Because when they were stuck in the desert, many people might have sought it as a punishment, and some people also didn't cross the desert completely and move completely to Israel. Some of them might have got stuck in between the places from Egypt to Israel that they took while they were traveling the desert for 40 years. And in those 40 years, there were people who couldn't continue. There were people who decided that their resources are depleted or their body is depleted, and hence they couldn't continue. And they settled in whichever desert area they managed to settle in. But the people who did manage to cross from Egypt to Israel then became the pioneers of the Judaism religion. From there, we got Christianity, which also again had a group of people resonating with a certain train of thought that God had decided to preach at that time, because it was necessary for people to learn that. It was obviously a need inside of people to understand a different way of living. Otherwise, Christianity wouldn't have spread so fervently across the globe and become a major religion of the world if people didn't need to learn a certain way of leading life from Christianity's teachings. So every time some prophet or some messenger of God comes on earth, they are born to provide an insight into something slightly different from all that has already been existing on earth. And it doesn't mean that everything that exists on earth needs to be destroyed, but the things that are not serving the people anymore, that are not serving a majority of lives, needs to change. As a result, a messenger of God comes. As a result, a person who sees the suffering of those who aren't able to carry the burden of that which is already existing, that is crushing the lives of certain people, and they need a different answer because their lives are being crushed under a certain paradigm or regime that is not working for them, leads for those people to go and start following a different religion, a different way of life, slightly modified way of life than what they are used to. This is how Sikhism also arose in India, where in India we had two major religions at that time, Hinduism and Muslim religion, Islam. They were both the predominant religion in the place where Sikhism arose. Now, the reason why it arose is because there were so many people who likely had Hindu preference as well as Islamic friends, or Hindu family and Islamic family, and they couldn't understand the religious divide between these two religions. So they had to come up with a third religion that amalgamated some of the principles of both these religions. So if you look at the principles of what Sikhism also teaches, you will see, if you try to delve deeper, some of the teachings will have a combination of what Hinduism and Islam was teaching at that time or trying to bring on earth. Same way with the Baha'i religion, which is there in the Middle East, where they want to accept all religions, because in that area, in the Middle Eastern area of the Europe and Middle Eastern area of Asia, in Europe we have a lot of Christianity and Judaism. In Asia we have the Eastern religions, and Middle East is in the central area where especially at least three religions predominate a lot, which is the Christianity, Judaism and Islam. And apart from those Christianity, Judaism and Islam also, that region of the world also has migrant workers from other countries of the world traveling and living in that area. Like people from India go there and work there, who might be Hindus or Sikhs, or there could be people from other unknown to me religions of the world who might be going and traveling and working in the Middle Eastern area. As a result, because there are multiple religions existing in that area, and people from multiple faith and multiple cultures and countries existing and living in that area, or even traveling via that area, because it's a central area of which connects Europe and Asia. As a result, Europe, Asia, and even Africa. As a result, people from these three main continents are prone to bring their influences there in Middle East. As a result, the Baha'i religion came up, which accepts all religious practices in their faith. So, like that, there is, why am I talking about religion and also wanting to talk about ideal family life in this video, is because religion always shows a way to hold a ideal family life, but it is not just a way to have a family life, it is also a way to have a communal life, a joint societal life that is needed for many people to function together cohesively as a functional member of the larger fabric of society that we are a part of. And if people in the Middle East only accept that Judaism is the religion, or only accept that Islam is the religion, then what happens is, what about the rest of humanity who exists there? Does their existence become nullified just because they follow a different religion? No, because even if you are not born of the Judaism faith or born of the Islamic faith, you are born, say, a Hindu or a Christian or a Sikh or any other tribal part of society that also used to exist earlier, lot more earlier than when all these religions started existing. It just means you are following a little different paradigm of living than what Judaism is teaching, possibly, or what Christianity is teaching, or any other religion is teaching. But if you delve again deeply into the core values of most religion, it is about respecting life, respecting God, respecting nature, respecting the natural ways of living life. As a result, people keep coming up with new religions or new insights on how to amalgamate different principles that different religions have come up with that will lead to a more cohesive society. So, if people want to bring peace in the Middle East, that's why those people who are trying to practice the Baha'i faith are trying to do that, because they want to bring peace in a area of the world which is the epicenter of so many continents. And also, if you will realize, Middle Eastern Suez Canal was also one way business is conducted to connect other parts of the world. Like if we want to have in the past, all trade used to be done via the seas. That's why Suez Canal was also, Middle East was also important in the past, because then you could connect America, North America, South America to the Asian countries, European countries, and African continents, right? So African countries. So many continents of the world got connected just via that one canal that existed in the center of the place where God has founded at least 3 major religions to exist. Because think about it logically also, those 3 religions are kind of amalgamating the principles of 3 continents of the world, 3 or more continents of the world, right? So like that principle, how any one part of the world can be of key importance to so many people, be it for trade, be it for religion, be it just for existence of humanity. I'm sorry. This is someone else's energy I'm feeling. Maybe it is the Holy Spirit. I don't know. But like that, how Jerusalem or Middle East is the epicenter of how people should be leading their lives in a manner aligned with ways of nature, ways of God, and the reason why that area of the world understands it a little bit more deeply and clearly is because it was a desert like area. People in those areas also faced a lot of poverty and destitution when, even if they are not facing it currently, because Middle East is a part of the world which is very prosperous currently, and there are other European places and African countries also near the Middle East which are very prosperous and financially doing very well in life. But the ancestry of the people in these regions, even though financial abundance has come to these continents, the thing that is missing, and not just missing in the Middle Eastern area, but thing that is missing globally currently, is the understanding of what abundance and prosperity actually means at the deeper level. Not that religion is not teaching it to people, not that pursuing wealth doesn't teach it to people. Everything that a human being does or has pursued in their life for 30, 40, 50, 60 years of their life has taught them something valuable and meaningful about a clearest path and well set path for leading a meaningful life. But the thing that's missing from many people in the world is, say, I have learned a particular way of living that resonates for me as the most beautiful way of living. Same thing with religion. When you have discovered Yahweh, or you have discovered Christ, or you have discovered Muhammad's teaching and Allah, or you have discovered Guru Govind's teaching and Ik Omkar, or you have discovered Hinduism's teaching and the Holy Trinity of gods in Hinduism, whatever gods you discovered and their teachings that you discovered, that is great for you to learn your personal life, for a person to learn how to function amazingly with their family, for a person to learn how to function cohesively with the society of people who follows that particular religion. But we also need to understand people from another religion. We also need to adapt or accept the way of life another religion is bringing into the picture when they are teaching something important about the core teachings of life and core teachings of the next phase of human evolution. That's why there are children born who may have ancestry from different religions of the world, children born who don't know they have ancestry from different religions of the world, because they might have grown up thinking that they are Islamic origin people. But even though they were Islamic currently, 1000 years back, 2000 years back, some of their ancestors could also have been Christians and Jews, or someone who is Sikh origin. They could discover that their ancestors could be Jewish. They could discover their ancestors could be from religions, old religions of China that people have forgotten, and Chinese religions have come up more in the phase of philosophical principles like Taoism, or in Central Asia, the religion that also propagated a lot apart from Hinduism was Buddhism. So people started following some different ways of life, different principles of life based on the central area in which they are living, and the kind of cross-cultural interactions that are happening in that religion. Because I think Buddhism is another religion that is a central religion that stemmed from Hinduism and possibly Chinese principles. So it tied together some principles from Hinduism and tied together some principles from Chinese philosophy, and which came to be known as Chinese philosophy like Taoism, but in the past was some tribal or inherent Chinese religion which people have just forgotten because so many centuries have passed, or they were all native tribal religions of these areas that the ancient memory is so far back in time that most humans have forgotten those natural ways of living, or even if they understand that natural way of living, they only understand a fraction of it because their genes have only a fraction of the nature aligned ways of living, because humanity shifted and evolved so much through times and centuries and decades of our lives in existence. Even right now, when most of us who are in the middle age of their 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s and are in this philosophical mindset of figuring out the purpose of their life, all of us can base some of our learnings from a religion we might be practicing. Some of our learning we base it from the friendship circle we are hanging out with and from the family life we had. Very few of us actually even connect to God in a meaningful manner, because most of us decide that the way to connect to God, or most of us have been taught by our families, the way to connect to God is via some ritualistic practice. That's why people do Lent during the time when Lent is practiced, and for that 1 month they might forgive and let go whatever things that they feel they're attached to, and they try to let go of that for a month. During Ramzan also, people are practicing same thing about letting go of eating during the summer time, and in the peak summer time Ramzan should ideally be practiced, because in the summertime, if you look at both Lent and Ramzan, they both happen during the peak summer time months, when humanity has less water on earth. Rainy season hasn't yet started. The crops that were grown during the springtime are slowly getting depleted. As a result, and in the summertime when the heat is high and our body doesn't have adequate proportion of water levels in our body, we should eat less so that we give our body the rest needed to not process and digest really heavy food. Now, the reason why both Lent got started and Ramzan got started was to meet the needs of humanity, both in the grander scheme of humanity existing and following these religions, as well as at the individual level. In the grander scheme, if say 1,000 people are living in a particular area or village or town, and there is because summer is approaching, now only the people who are really rich and had accumulated a lot of wealth in the form of financial wealth, or those who have accumulated a lot of wealth in the form of vegetables and fruits and produce, can be able to sustain themselves through the summer time in eating the same level of food that they were eating in the winter time or any other time when food is not less on earth, when water is not less on earth. As a result, people are asked in Lent time or during Ramzan to not eat in Lent, people are told to not eat certain kinds of meats. They are told not to let go of some of their vices. So if someone loves to drink, they may not drink. Someone loves to indulge in sex, they shouldn't do that. Someone loves to earn a lot of money, maybe they should think and rest and not earn a lot of money in that month of Lent. In Ramzan, for 12 hours or 12 to 14 hours of the day, when the moon is not seen, and from dawn, from the when I'm not a religious person, so please forgive me if I am not absolutely telling you the ritualistic practice that someone practices during Ramzan, but I'm telling you the principle of the practice and the logical reason behind why this practice started existing, or why God had given insight to Muhammad or insight to other prophets to tell them, like, teach humanity to not eat for 12 hours of the day or 14 hours of the day from this time to this time, right? So why did it happen that people who were living in the desert areas had to practice during summertime this 12-hour 14-hour gap of not eating? Because if in a village thousands of people lived in that village or town, and in those thousands of people who are living there, only usually generally in humanity, the top tier really rich people make maybe 5 or 10% of humanity of that area. So apart from those 5-10% of population who may have as much abundance as they had any time of the other times of the year, rest of the 90% of the population in that area may not have that same level abundance. Out of those rest 90% of the population also, there are going to be maybe another 50 to 70% who might be very much not quite poor, but they may just have enough stock to last through the summer. And then there will be like another 10-20% of humanity who were the laborers possibly of humanity, who were the ones who live hand to foot, who were the travelers because they have to travel and go to different parts of the world to bring information from different parts, who are the traders who are risking their lives and becoming more aligned only with the natural elements. So that's why they lead life with whatever minimal existence they have in their life. So these people are the ones, the last tier people of poverty ones, stricken ones, or people who are not poor, but because they are traveling at that time, they are set to the bare minimal essentials that are available to them when they are traveling. People who are teachers, who are traveling the world for teaching some philosophies or teaching some religious teachings, people who are saints, people who are the laborers. These are the people, migrant workers, these are the people who don't have enough food, who don't have enough water, who might not even have right shelter. So as a result, Muhammad was given insights by Allah to teach the people to take care of these people who don't have anyone else to take care of them, who don't have enough resources to take care of them. And these are just the people who are working, but there are also the sick people who just fall sick because of the weather changes. There are also the women who might be pregnant and might not be able to work. There are women who are having some health issues. There are people who became widowers or were grief stricken. As a result, they couldn't, even though maybe rest of the decades of their life they were very prosperous, but suddenly when they fell sick, all their prosperity went away because they are sick and they didn't have any family or other people to rely on. So now such people who are falling outside the norms of society, or who are outside in the lower 10 percentile of society, where they are not able to access or do work or do something that will give them the food that they need, the shelter that they need, the health that they need. Now these are the people who are supposed to be taken care of by the top 50% of the society, who have enough abundance to share a little bit of their abundance. If someone doesn't have a lot of wealth, but they have plenty of food, they can share their food with someone who needs food. If someone needs nutrition, and they are sick because they have access to low nutrition, because they're constantly traveling and eating whatever food that they can get. As a result, they don't have very good nutritional health. Now someone who is a nutritionist or a healer or a doctor, now they can provide help even if they are a poor doctor, don't have financially a lot of resources. They can still use their medical knowledge, nutritional knowledge, to teach someone to eat better. Or but should they be teaching someone who is in the worst health case to eat better or do better? No, they can only teach someone who is at the brink of falling sick, who doesn't have the finances to treat themselves when they fall sick. So for that person, having a valuable insight from someone else who knows about how to stay a healthy life will be beneficial. So every one of us can give what we possess as a donation to others during the times in which our religions are teaching us to donate, or telling us to do something for the world. It is not necessary for a person who doesn't have money to give food to the poor. If you don't have money, why should you give food to the poor when you are yourself poor? But if you are poor only in resources, but you have wealth in the form of wisdom, you give the wisdom out instead. If you are poor in the terms of monetary sense, that's why you can't buy clothes for someone, you can't build a shelter for someone. God is not going to judge if you don't build a shelter or don't give clothes to someone when you don't have the money to even buy clothes for yourself or majority of your family and dependents. So if you don't have those monetary resources, God is not going to ask you to give monetarily. God then wants you to give in the way in which you can give. If you are a kind human being, then you are supposed to give kindness to the world. If you are a generous human being who loves to smile, your smile is the thing that you have to give to the world, rather than a physical gift. If you are a spiritually oriented person, that's the reason why you don't have enough money, and you depend on the kindness of strangers anyways for your existence, that spiritual energy that you're channeling from God, that is what is needed for you to give to the world. If you are a chatty person and you love to clear the air, or you love to make lots of friends, you go and give that friendship to the world. No one is telling you, no God tells people, or actually is asking anyone to give that which they don't have to give. But God still wants people to give that they possess inside of themselves. They have been given and granted as a blessing that they should give to the world, because giving and taking is a basic paradigm of life in every form, not just human life. Give and take is not a business transaction that many people consider some giving and taking to be like a business transaction. It's a naturally flowing give and take, naturally flowing thing. As a result, it should naturally happen, not something that should be forced by someone, not something that should be pulled out of someone. Because say I am already energy depleted, and because I'm sick, or because something terrible is going on in my life, and right now at this day, in this year, in this month, I don't have the energy to socially interact with people, whereas for 30-40 years I had plenty of energy to socially interact with people. The time when I had the energy to interact with people, I was a pharmacist, or I was also a preschool teacher, teaching aide for a while. So in both these professions, when I had plenty of energy to interact socially with kids, interact socially with adults and elderly, that's when I interacted with kids, that's when I interacted happily with adults and elderly. But the time of my life when I don't have the energy, or I am sick physically, I had a lot of physical health issues in the last 4-5 years, then some mental health issues also cropped up because I was not keeping my energy clean, thoughts clean. I was becoming a little misaligned with the ways of God, As a result, I was not in a frame of mind to interact socially with people. So at that time, if someone forces me, or if I force myself to go and interact and be the person that I was previously, I can't be. Or if I am interacting at that time in that frame of mind, which was not the right frame of mind, or in that frame of health, which is where my complete resources are depleted already, I can't do that interaction. But at that time, when say I have given for 20, 30 years to many people positive energy, positive information, wisdom, health and healthcare related tips, because that was part of my job functional role. Now that I had done that as part of my role, when I am sick, the part of other parts of the society is to provide me that similar level, equitable level thing that I had given. It doesn't mean they have to give me the same thing, because if I have given someone healthcare advice, being a pharmacist, or I having some healthcare insight about nutrition, want to provide that insight to my family or give them an insight about how to manage their nutrition, do I need someone to give me nutritional insight, or do I need someone to give me healthcare insight if I have better knowledge than them? No. And which is what happened strangely to me, that when I was really sick and I went to multiple doctors, many of those doctors provided me partial treatment or mistreatment because they didn't understand the extent of my healthcare problem. Now, even though they didn't understand the extent of the healthcare problem, I had the knowledge, teaching, wisdom, personal life experiences, professional life experiences to understand this particular illness a slightly better than any particular doctor that I was visiting. So instead of those doctors giving me 100% solution to the healthcare problem resolution that I needed and I was seeking from them, I didn't get that resolution. I spent first 1 year of my life, while I was going through really severe disease states, I spent doing the practices that universe was sending me was the solution. And when I did those solutions, it worked. But there was a time even the universe's solution stopped working, because at that point of time society needs to do something, humans have to start doing something to fix that core problem. And because the humans around me in my life were not doing that, that core problem was not getting resolved. As a result, I fell sick again. So because even though I was getting energy healing, even though I was getting doing some spiritual practices, they were not helping me for a physical health issue which was tied to the physical nature of the people existing in my life, coexisting with me in the society, and also the people who are supposed to treat people like me. Even they don't understand this disease state completely. As a result, they were only providing me partial solutions. But in the next 1.5 years, when I went to different doctors, when my own interventions were not working, and the doctors gave me certain interventions, I tried those interventions, but again some of those interventions weren't working, because I had a deeper health problem than what they were treating. Say if you have a small scratch on your hand, or you fell down and you were bleeding a little bit, if it was a minor wound and the doctor or your mom or any healthcare provider you go to gives you a little bit of antiseptic, cleans up the wound, applies the antiseptic, and if it is a minor level wound, you just need a little bit of wound dressing or a band-aid, and that's it. But if it is more than a minor wound, if it is a deeper gash that has happened on your hand when you fell down, then if you just stay at home, you won't get the remedy. You have to go to the doctor or a healthcare provider. If you went to a doctor or a nurse practitioner or someone who is capable of emergency room, they look at the wound and it is deeper than something that a band-aid or a small dressing can heal,
then what they will do, they will also stitch up the wound. Now, if it is even deeper wound than that, you were in a major accident and you broke your bones as well, then you need another layer of medicine to heal the bones. So see, if a person who has fractured bones goes to a doctor or tries home remedies for their fractured bones, they can only be able to, they should only be doing that if they are living in an area where there are no doctors, if they are in a place where the doctors aren't qualified to fix the bones, then only doing that will help. Or if your bone fracturing was not just as a result of you having an accident, but other inherent chemical poisoning going on in your body, then maybe if you go to a doctor who only knows how to heal a broken bone when the bone was in healthy state, will not help. You need a doctor who understands that this bone is in an unhealthy state, and also a doctor to realize where his practicing abilities are limited, right? So does that make sense? So there are so many different layers of healing that one has to do. And likewise, if you have only a minor wound and if you go to a doctor who can fix bones, it's also irrelevant. You can't go to a doctor with a minor wound and tell him to fix your bones. One who fixes bones doesn't want to treat the one who has a minor wound. But what if your minor wound had deeper reasons behind it? You do have a fractured bone, but that doctor who is always used to seeing fractured bones of like bones really coming out, or someone's x-ray showing that their bones are distorted, if that doctor has trained himself only to treat those two types of patients, the one whose bones have literally come out of their body as a result of their injury, or the ones whose bones are showing that they are broken in an image, if a doctor only understands these two levels of bone malfunctioning, but a person has a cancer which is causing their bones to deteriorate, now that doctor will not be able to treat a person with cancer whose bones are deteriorating, because even though he may have studied about cancer, if he hasn't seen that kind of cancer patient in a while, that doctor is not qualified at that point of time to treat a patient whose bones are fracturing minorly, but it is not showing up on an x-ray or not showing up visibly. But the person who has the bone problem, whose bones are fracturing, will show other disease states or other symptoms which hint to them having a bone malfunction. They would have body aches and pains, bone aches and pains, any small injuries like just hitting a wall will start giving them a level of pain that wouldn't happen if their bones were healthy, things like that. So now, if I am a person like that who understands a little deeper level of a disease state than a doctor I'm going and seeing, like how I described a cancer patient's bone problems, and the reason why I am able to describe it is because I went to a near cancer stage, and because of some interventions provided by doctors and some interventions that my own clinical knowledge gave me, I was able to reverse some of the cancer symptoms. So, like that, if you have a knowledge base that is slightly different or slightly advanced in certain areas than a person you're going to ask for help, very rarely will you get help from them. Most of the time you have to do the self-help, and this is another part which many religions try to teach people, but people forget about it, that why self-help is the best help. Everyone has to do the self-care and self-help first before we can self-care and self-understanding. These three things are actually needed by each of us to understand even the principles of a religion we want to follow. Because if you understand self-care, you will not go and seek help from someone who has lesser knowledge than you or lesser power than you to help you. Okay, then you will gain a discernment. After doing self care, you will understand which person can help you, which person can't help you. After you understand self, also you will gain that discernment. That's why self care and self help and then self understanding is needed, because if all these three have been mastered by you, then only you can understand someone who is a master of something, who's a doctor of something, who knows something better than you and can help you in a way where they have gained the mastery and good knowledge about. But you can also understand someone who can't help you, right? So the reason why I am making this video like this, there is a social and societal problem also currently happening on earth. One related to religious practices, one related to self-care and self-help practices, one related to healthcare practices, and one related to global practices that all of us are doing, that some of those practices needs to shift and change slightly. And I actually wanted to make this video about family life.